Welcome back to our current events panel. We're unpacking a plethora of issues, and now we're going to jump to an issue that's percolating in Quebec, but we've seen in other provinces here in Canada as well, and that is of presumed consent for organ donation. Brock, I'll let you start this one off. What does that mean, presumed consent?
Presumed consent means that you have to opt out if you don't wish to give your organs upon your expiration. Currently, only Nova Scotia has this in place. Quebec is thinking of it. A lot of people in the donation and transplant community are concerned that automatic will become unpopular and there will be a backlash that will lead to less donations. In some provinces, this isn't an issue. One of the benefits of the tragedy of the opioid epidemic in British Columbia is there are a decent supply of organs for donation. It's a terrible reason to have a decent supply, but that's the case in BC. Quebec probably is fortunate enough not to have such a bad epidemic, but is considering going in this direction. Quebec's real problem is there's 3 groups involved and they're trying to consolidate who's in charge, and this is causing them a bit of a challenge. But I think voluntary donation is a good idea for those that wish to, but forcing everyone, even those who may oppose for religious purposes, is a challenge.
Mike, what are some of the concerns the populace has with, opting out, like with I guess, presumed consent, which with forcing organ donations unless you've opted out?
That's right. So presumed consent means that your organs will be utilized if they're good for donation, unless you specifically said that's not something you want. And there are a number of religious beliefs that prohibit the use of organs for donation. So there's concern that people who had no intention of donating their organs will in fact have their organs donated against the will of their family. And this is very problematic. Also, it's a question, on the other hand, of how do you deal with the shortage of organs, and are you going to allow people who otherwise would have approved to have their organs donated, but they never filled out the paperwork, and having those organs not utilized? So it's really a very difficult situation. On one hand, people are concerned about the negative optioning. On the other hand, we want to make sure that as many organs can be donated as possible.
Yeah, so my hesitation with this is I'm of the belief that we should opt in for those who've done the research and want to opt in. It's a medical procedure. I appreciate that there's a level of death involved, sometimes just brain death or whatever, and they have to preserve the organs as soon as possible. So these decisions really ought to be made in advance, not as someone's passing. But it's sort of, to me, similar. Obviously, it's not the same, but similar like blood donation. You kind of opt in, you choose to do this. It's something you're choosing to do with your body. And yes, I appreciate even as you're expiring, it's still your body. Even after you die, it's still your body. I think it would be best to have people consent to opt in. Now, Brock, you mentioned something interesting. You said that the organ donation community is concerned that by having this presumed consent, it will turn people off donation. Why is that?
So by forcing people's hands, sometimes people just don't like authority, and it causes a backlash. The organ donation community, I assume it's a stretch. It doesn't want to be compared to the cable companies that had negative billing back in the day and now are going out of business because no one has cable anymore. I think that's the real challenge, is being worried about the backlash. I think a positive message saying that it's a good thing to do will get more people than forcing everyone's hand. Just forcing an automatic opt-in, I think, will upset some people that otherwise would stay quiet and choose not to give their organs for other people. Whereas if there was a positive message of you should opt in, it helps others, you'll get more people on board.
Now, Mike, we have a minute left of the segment. I forgot to mention there was a situation recently where a Kentucky man woke up right before they were harvesting his organs. He was, a few times declared dead, but apparently there were still signs of life. And he woke up with tears, and my goodness, we have about 45 seconds.
Isn't that everybody's nightmare, to be assigned as dead and then either waiting for an organ transplant, or as they're putting you into the coffin, you suddenly wake up? I think that's a case of poor medical judgment rather than having anything to do with organ donation. But it's a horrific situation regardless, because he was awake and aware the whole time. They thought he was in a coma, and as they were discussing donating his organs.
My goodness, my goodness. Well, at least he woke up in time, and I believe he's filing a suit against the government. So we'll see what happens. We'll be right back in a few moments.